Hey everybody, this is Audra from Homesteading in Idaho, coming on for a quick tip on something that you can be doing that's going to maximize your growing potential for your family. And if you're growing livestock, it's one of the ways you can be providing food for your animals on a small space. So if you're familiar with us, you know that we're on 1.5 acres in Nampa, Idaho. This is our southwestern section of Idaho. It's the desert. It's the high desert. So we kind of do everything we can on our 1.5 acres to maximize what we're able to grow for our family. But I want to be as close to self-sufficient for our animals as well. So behind me, I've got mulberries. Now, mulberries, if somebody tries to tell you that they're a bush, they're going to be a huge tree unless you train them to be a bush. And these ones I have to trim and train every year. But guess what? That's perfect because these leaves, these extra leaves, it's food for my animals. So here on 1.5 acres, we've got poultry, including chickens and quail. Sometimes we have ducks, geese, and turkeys. We've got rabbits. We've got dairy goats and meat goats. We have pigs, and we have a beef steer, all of which are going to love these mulberry leaves. So I'm going to turn the camera around and show you what I'm going to harvest today to feed to our livestock. One of the absolutely wonderful things that I love about mulberries is how quick they grow. Like, they're just phenomenal quick growers, and they make this perfect hedge between our neighbors and I. So if they're in their backyard entertaining and just enjoying their backyard, or if we're in our yard, it gives some privacy. Like, we have the most fantastic neighbors on the planet. No complaint about my neighbors. We love them. But, you have to have your own space, and it gives that sense of privacy. And so I just love how quickly these grow. But guess what? If they're growing quickly, yes, they're going to provide berries. So a lot of this is growth where there's no signs of any berries. It's just green growth, which is great. It's going to fill in, but some of it, I really don't need this to be filled in, like this section here. So I'm going to cut it off and go give it to the goats. But what I'm going to avoid cutting, now like right here, those are little mulberries forming. Those little hairy guys, those are young berries. And like on this one right here, got little young berries forming on this plant. So those sections I will not cut. But these sections here, this long growth, I'm going to go ahead and cut those so it doesn't quite look too scraggly over here. I mean, I want it to maintain and look nice. I don't want it to be just too scraggly and wild. Now, I do love the wild look. It speaks to my soul, but I need to make sure it looks nice at the same time. So we're going to cut off some of these scraggles and go give them to the goats. Now, many decades ago, it was more common for a lot of the homesteaders, farmers, and ranchers to take advantage of these leaves. And it was called leaf forage or leaf crops for your animals. And nowadays, because, hay is grown commercially, and it's a little easier for most people to get their hands on, leaf forage for critters has been forgotten about. Let's face it, it was something that we're just not taught about it, right? You're taught quality of hay, what to look for in hay, all this and that. But when was the last time anybody was taught to forage for leaves for their animals? So it's one of those things that's being lost to history, which is kind of sad. I mean, honestly, because okay, how the chickens are right here. These guys they're on quarantine because they're new, so they're getting moved around on grass. Anyway, back to this. How often do we drive by locations and we'll see leaves, or we'll go to the dump and there's lots of leaves and things going to the dump, and you're like, well, gosh, like for me as a gardener, it was like, oh man, that could be getting used in the garden. And then I'm like, oh man, my animals would eat that kind. I mean, not true. You need to do your research. The chickens are giving me their opinion. Do your research. Make sure that you're going to be feeding something that's not going to kill your animals. There are some you want to avoid. Like for us, we do not give any of our leaves from our cherry trees to our dairy goats or meat goats, because cherry leaves have the chance of being toxic. So that's one we avoid giving to them. But do your research. But this is an opportunity to be feeding your animals with something you have on hand. Now, because we raise dairy goats and meat goats, it's really important to have a forage, or you can consider this leaf hay, leaf forage, or leaf fodder. Anyway, the importance of having this is, and Happy, he's very opinionated about everything should be his first. So Puck is trying to sneak some off the side. Anyway, the importance is with dairy goats, because they're a ruminating animal like a cow, but unlike a cow, goats like to not graze, but to browse. So they like to have choices. They like to look and supplement their gut and their stomach with different things. And so if you can offer things like the leaf hay, leaf fodder, it's going to be more beneficial for your animal. So these guys, it helps supplement their diet and keep them healthy and happy, which Happy the goat could learn from this to be happy instead of a little grouch. But our rabbits especially, like I don't know who likes it more though, the goats or the rabbits. But whenever I do the mulberry leaves, oh, they get so excited for the mulberry, and they can't get enough of it. BJ's like, where's mine? I'll get you some in a second, buddy. So there you go, guys. If you're looking at a way to supplement your feed for your animals, take a look at the trees you've got growing. You might just have something hanging out that you hadn't thought of before.